in the 2024-2025 bull run. It looks like it peaks out in the middle of 2025. And what is that? Yep. What is that price range that you would estimate the parallel suggests that it will get to?
Yeah, so usually the peaks are about the end of the year, and so this is going to be the end of the middle or end of 2025. So start of 2026. So it's not perfect, right? So you see it oscillates a little bit, where exactly the peak is, but around that time, and it's going to be close to 200,000.
Awesome.
And again, this is assuming that there is this decay. Now, it's possible that there is not a decay, and so it's going to up much more. But guys, I'd rather hope for 200,000 and base it on some kind of math, and then see 500, and that will be the first one to say, okay, great, right? Because I don't think the model will be broken. It will be simply this component will not be right? That we don't have a decay here. But I still think it will go back to exactly doing what it does during the bear market. That is good news, because you can see even during the bear market, we're simply going up, right? So, that bottom should be around 16,000, something like that.
Okay, so interesting.
After the peak here around 200, we will never see anything below 60,000 for Bitcoin.
Wow.
But it's crazy.
And
so then, 1 million by 2032, something like that.
Awesome. And then you said you were in altcoins before. Have you tried to find a parallel or model other things like Ethereum, Solana, and you can't find it? It doesn't show up?
Yeah,
just
the first
Bitcoin?
thing, you see, the pattern starts to be obvious when you start to change over many, many orders of magnitude. Then, so, maybe Ethereum did that because it went from few cents to a few thousands, but even there, you see what happened, it will be only this section of the, if you did something similar with Ethereum, it will be only this section, right?
Yeah.
You don't start to see the real pattern until you have a couple of other orders of magnitude, and no asset has done that. But, you can still try, and they try, and it doesn't really look like there is a nice power law like with Bitcoin.
That's interesting that it's just Bitcoin. Yeah.
Yeah, that we are dealing with something that is not
something different. Yeah, okay, interesting.
Different, But it's kind of like a prediction, because there were people like Al Finning, that saying the same thing. They say, don't worry about, the code being open source, because they kind of predicted there'll be a lot of people replicating, what Bitcoin did, the code, etc. Say they would be self-defeating, because if you don't believe a narrative of Bitcoin, you say, okay, this coin is going to be good as Bitcoin, then this coin is going to be defeated by the next one, and the next one, and the next one.
Yeah.
So every time you make a new coin, the value of that coin is going to be less than the previous one, in a sense, right?
Yeah.
So the only really that has that clout and that power and that standing value is Bitcoin, because it was the first one. So it makes sense, and the data kind of
backs it up a bit. Yeah. Just one more thing. Can we go back to the power laws chart, the fifth one, that shows the different, this, number 5, one more forward. So of the cities and...
Oh, yeah, these ones, yes.
Yes, this one. Something interesting, I'm not sure, I know you're familiar with Michael Saylor, but if you watched a bunch of his work, sometimes he refers to Bitcoin as a shining city in cyberspace, and that you can buy digital plots of land. I thought it was fascinating that you can, to my knowledge, you can estimate the GDP of a city based on the population size, and that I think maybe Michael Saylor has discovered something, or he might be might have somehow...
I don't know. I would like to talk with him. He's big guy, so, maybe he's ignoring me because, I kind of, he's very busy, I'm sure. And then I also don't know what is his philosophy about models, because he also says all your models will be broken. And
yeah.
I don't know, is not what is happening here with Bitcoin. Actually, he been he has a mathematics background.
He went to MIT and
that's aerospace.
Yeah, aerospace. Yes.
Oh yeah, amazing. So I respect him a lot, and I think when he talks about Bitcoin, he talks like a physicist.
He does.
He talks about conservations. He talks about all these things. So he should be the first one agreeing that this is amazing if this is true,
Well, I'm actually
that's important.
I'm interviewing him in 2 weeks, and I'll ask him about all of this. I'll see if he's looked into it, and I'll show him the model.
But it'd be very interesting, and I want to do more. I want to start to do some calculation based on comparing it with cities. Because, we have these studies where they actually did that, where they came up with all these patents. I had a Twitter where I show all these beautiful power laws that people are finding, like, for example, the GDP, the number of patents, unfortunately, even crime. So one could calculate how many scammers there are around Bitcoin, because with the good things, you also get the bad things. The good things are going to win, but, there are also bad things coming up with scaling up. And all of them, all these things, interactions between people, all kind of things were power laws. And it's interesting, like you can see here, it doesn't matter if you are so every time. The beauty also of these power laws that is almost like a fingerprint. You see this N value?
Yeah.
The specific value, it tells us something about the process. Like, for example, with organism, if I remember well, is 3/4. It's something very specific that has something to do with what is going on with the different processes that drive this. Like the power law from the planets tell us exactly like gravity works. So it's almost like a fingerprint is a characteristic number for that system. So the fact that it is 5.8, and maybe 5.8 is an approximation of a real number, maybe 6. It's like a fingerprint for Bitcoin. It's his characteristic number, and it tells us something about the process. And maybe we can try to do something, making it more related to how city looks like. And then it will come up, Bitcoin is like a city.
Yeah.
It's like a city of this size, right?
Yeah.
And it grows, right? So now it's like New York. Now it's like Los Angeles.
Yep.
Now, and it will be a day when it's like more like a country. And now maybe, something bigger than that. So there are all kind of, once you start to see things in this way, you are leaving the modeling, right? This is why S2F really, it seemed to add a mechanism or flow, these things. First of all, let me say this. Not really, because he derived that relationship using the time anyway. So he basically kind of rediscovered this power law. It's just that in addition to that, he says, the price will jump up by a factor of 10 every halving. It's not happening. And I will be the first one liking that, because we will be ultra rich. It's not really, we have to accept the data for what it is. It's not happening. But this is more beautiful, in my opinion, because it is a Bitcoin. First of all, from a practical point of view, is growing slowly, but slowly. Well, power of 6. What are you talking about? It's still very fast, right? It's not just see. S2F means exponential, because if you double something or make it 10 times something at a fixed rate, every 4 years, it's easy to show mathematically you will get an exponential. And exponential means explosive growth. And it's not what is happening with Bitcoin. It's fast growth, but it's a power law growth. It is beautiful, because then there are all these consequences about the robustness of a system, about a system almost like it has homeostasis, right? Like an organism. You excite it, you push it away from equilibrium, it wants to go back. You push it away, it wants to go back. It's amazing. And then, the fact that it is universal, it looks like planets, it looks like organisms, it looks like cities. It's philosophically, it becomes like a poem, it's a scientific poem. It's beautiful, so.
It is beautiful.
Saylor was right. Like maybe his intuition, maybe he was making like a more general metaphor, but it's actually really true in a sense. Right? Mathematically, it grows like a city. It becomes like a city. So it's very interesting.
Awesome. Giovanni, I think we might leave it there for the intro, but this was a fascinating introduction into power laws. I feel like I understand it. The beauty of Bitcoin is it has taught me so much about economics, monetary theory, and now mathematics. And the more I learn, and I've been in it for years and years now, the more blown away I am by this thing.
Same.
I want to ask you a kind of weirder question, but are you religious at all? Like these power laws blow my mind, and the patterns that they come up, it's like it's so bizarre that these complex things come together and that math explains it.
I'm actually an atheist. So
an atheist, okay.
Yeah, but I do believe that there are patterns in nature, right?
Yeah.
From the complexity of the universe, etc. I'm actually writing a book about that entire idea, right? And my book is going to be, I'm writing a book on Bitcoin, first of all, the physics of Bitcoin. But also I'm writing a general book about, it's called the Purposeful Universe, Finding Meaning in a Meaningless Universe. Because there is meaning in the universe and we give it. It's us. But at the same time, there are all these patterns that, weirdly enough, and I know it sounds completely crazy, but I will leave it there and then read my book to understand why, they come from nothing. Nothing drives everything else. Nothing is full of symmetry, and these symmetries give rise to the complexity of the universe. I know it sounds crazy and weird, but it's actually what is going on. There is ton of evidence that is exactly like that, right? That nothing is, and it's interesting because this is what the Greeks say, that the universe. So anyway,
it's fascinating. We'll have to read your book once it comes out. I'll include a link to your Twitter and your YouTube in the description, and to head over and we'll follow it. And I think we should do a follow-up maybe a few months after the halving and just see how it's tracking along, and then another follow-up and just keep tracking it because this model is fascinating. I think it's going to continue to.
Plot the graph on top of a new one and see how they are different, etc. And I did that on Twitter, and I can send you also. You can pull out from Twitter anything you find useful.
Well, the most interesting thing, the first one on Reddit that you posted and the second one, it slightly differs, but it's essentially the exact same. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is super fascinating.
You can superimpose them, and there are, like slightly off, but of course, it's kind of understanding because also it depends on where you do the calculation, right? And
at what time,
because imagine you do the calculation when you are close to one of these peaks, your data will be kind of skewed.
Gonna throw it off a bit, yeah.
But
as we get more data, it's going to eventually come together.
And you can write it for that too. You can say, okay, I'm going to give less weight to the outliers. There are mathematical methods to do that. But, basically, these are Guy Berger that I mentioned, we talk many times. I think he has also physics background, but he's a really clever guy. And he did a lot also confirmations. He did calculations, and he showed he used a more sophisticated method to show that it's stable over time. That actually basically since 2015, I think, basically the model has been the same without almost no change.
Yeah.
And of course, as we get more data, it's going to be more precise. But, if you change it, if these slope change, enormously from, year to year, then the model will be incorrect. But if it slightly changes and it, goes back and forth because we have more data, it's okay. It's part of doing modeling.
Exactly, yeah, and that makes sense to me.